What is going on, guys? And welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Miles of Horror, your home for all things horror, physical media, cult, indie cinema, and as always, the only channel that's going to make you scream. I so appreciate you guys hanging out. If you'd be so kind to hit that like button, please subscribe to my channel if you like this video or if you like what you see. I would appreciate it. Next goal is 500 subscribers. We are knocking on the door. So let's get it. Is collecting VHS worthless, guys? In 2025, that is a question I am posing to you for a number of reasons. Okay. Now clearly, I don't think so because if you've followed my YouTube channel for some time, or if you follow me over on Instagram, you know I have an extensive VHS collection. Now you could be a collector like me, where you have a massive VHS collection. And this is only a part of my collection, or you might be a VHS collector that has even more than that. You have closets full of VHS tapes, or you could be a VHS collector that has even more tapes just sitting on the floor. Now, that is the kind of collector that I am. I love the format. It is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, but that is not the case for everyone. Now, I love all formats, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K, so I don't really pick and choose too much. I just like movies, and some movies I have on multiple formats, but I'm a big collector as well, so I enjoy the packaging. I enjoy the collecting aspect of it. And VHS to me is my childhood, right? I was born in 1986, so it's really awesome to kind of deep dive into that format and really kind of pick up tapes, and not just pick them up but watch them, because there's a certain charm and a certain comfort. There's a certain comfort that I get when I watch VHS tape. But anyway, over the past year or so, I've heard a few people say in the communities, even people that I have mad love for and mad respect for, truly, certain things along the lines of collecting VHS is worthless, or you'd be stupid to pay big money for VHS tapes. And it really got me thinking about that question and that idea, because I am such a big VHS collector. Now, again, my stance is firm. I think VHS fucking rocks. I love it. My stance will not change, but I want to hear from you guys, because it is a really polarizing topic and a really polarizing time to be a physical media collector, most notably on a backlog format like VHS, when we have all these phenomenal things being put out on Blu-ray and 4K. So, in 2025, the VHS community is bigger than it's ever been, and the format is thriving like it's never thrived before, right? But what does that mean for collecting, right? So tapes have become increasingly rare, and in turn, prices have gone up. Tapes that were once perceived as common, truly, now go for hundreds of dollars in claim sales and Facebook groups and eBay, and it's wild times. But some people in the horror communities, as I mentioned, just have mentioned things over the past year or so that you'd be kind of stupid to pay big money for VHS tapes, and really collecting it is kind of stupid. And again, people who I respect, I don't, their prerogative is theirs. No issues, no beef. I just want to kind of raise this question because I think it's fascinating. Right. I think it's a really interesting topic because the format is very hot right now. And there are a lot of people going back, myself included, not just what I have at the moment collecting, but going back and even finding some other rare tapes that I don't have, or even some common tapes that I don't have. I'm still searching out Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 if anybody has a copy. But I want to talk to you guys about this, right? Is collecting VHS worthless in 2025, or is there value in it? And is it worth, going through the effort of these tapes? Because believe me, it is not an easy task to take on. And there's a lot that goes into VHS collecting. It's not like you get a Blu-ray, it's just on your shelf, you can watch whenever you want. There's a lot more to it as far as VHS collecting is concerned. It's not just a format you set it and forget. You just don't. There's things like mold and tape degradation and audio tracking issues, and these things are old, guys. If VHS came out in the 70s, so some of these tapes are 50 years old. And VHS was not meant to last forever. But anyway, let me get into it. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, VHS has somewhat of a shelf life, right? These things were not meant to last forever. And I think that they do last for quite some time, and that might last for your lifetime. But I can tell you right now, it's somewhat undeniable that a lot of tapes are just not. They don't play as well as they used to. A lot of the older tapes from the 70s and the 80s, they rarely play perfectly. I'm going to be just completely honest with you. You might get a tape that you kind of have to settle because it's just not common, and if you want it, you're going to have to deal with some imperfections. Right? There are usually some types of tape degradation or audio tracking issues. The picture's never perfect, but even as far as VHS is concerned, some tapes play perfectly, right? And you can still get, a reissue of a movie or a brand new film, like The Substance was just, put on VHS by, you know, like upwards of 10, 11 different people that put that movie on VHS. So modern VHS is a thing. And some tapes play perfectly and the new ones are great, but all these things are very appealing to me. And I think they're very appealing to someone who's looking to get into the format. But does that render these older tapes useless? Like, is it worthless to go back and get older tapes if you know there are going to be some issues? Are they worthless in turn because there is the possibility of mold and degradation and audio issues, or is it still a worthwhile format to collect regardless of these issues? You know, is the format obsolete in any way? Or is there value in a tape that maybe doesn't play as well as it used to? And maybe still makes a great set piece, even though you can watch it and it doesn't play perfectly, but you can watch it, still get that charm of VHS, even though it's not perfect, and you get the set piece, etc. You get those original um, art, slips, etc. So next, the reality of the format is that it's a downgrade in most things, right? So the picture quality is worse. Listen, I love VHS, and there's some movies that I prefer to watch on VHS, but the reality is the picture quality is worse, right? It's a downgrade. The sound is worse. That's a fact. You can even argue some of the dark night scenes or blacks, especially in horror movies, right, are so fuzzy you can't even make out the picture. I've done some side by sides of VHS movies versus a Blu-ray or 4K, and it's kind of depressing. Sometimes you can't even see the picture, and if it's so dark. But again, that's part of the charm, I think, in some ways. And some of the blacks or the darks in some of the blacks or the darks in some VHS, the older tapes are not as good as some of the newer tapes. Just the way it is. Some of the tapes are higher quality. Um, so that's a reality, but also, moving on, the pricing of VHS, it's hit astronomical proportions. It is insane. And it's all relative, of course, because VHS tapes started at like $100 when they first came out. But any type of rare tape. When I say rare, I mean rare. Okay, you can't just hop on a website and buy some of these rare tapes. They might pop up on a claim sale every once in a while, and you probably have like less than a minute to claim it, and purchase it. But oftentimes there's legitimately like a 4K of a movie that's put out in a claim sale, a rare tape, and that entire 4K set could be conceivably cheaper than the VHS tape due to the rarity of the VHS tape. So it's really interesting to think about that dichotomy of like a piece of physical media that's 50 years old, doesn't play well, audio issues, might not last that much longer, versus a 4K, looks better, sounds better, cheaper. So it's really interesting to think about. And so does that render VHS as a whole, a useless thing to collect? Is it something that's obsolete? Should we be just passing this by and moving forward with Blu-rays and 4Ks? Again, I don't think so. I love the format, and that's where I'm at. But I really want to hear what you guys have to say. And kind of my last thing here is that these tapes, these things they're hard to find these days. They're very rare. Sure, there are loads and loads of tapes out there, and while I might have multiple copies of, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Hocus Pocus, there are others that are just outrageously rare. Okay, something like a Death Spa. Okay, this tape I just saw on eBay go for $300. Okay, it is a very rare tape, and it goes for crazy money. It's just the way it is, just the way the format works. Um, Now again, you can get a reissue. I just bought a reissue of this because I wanted a better VHS version. I will always cherish my my original version, my MPI home video. but I wanted the new reissue from Gorgon Video. I purchased that for $20. I just bought it. So you can get this tape for $20, reissue, but that original slip, the original tape is worth a lot of money to a lot of people. Okay. Or a tape like Cemetery High, again, worth a lot of money to a lot of people, the original tape, or something like Society, right? These are rare tapes. These things go for big money, upwards of 200 each at least. And I can tell you right now, you can get a Society Blu-ray for probably $15. So it's very interesting to me, the dichotomy between a VHS tape and something that's better quality, like a Blu-ray that is more common. So it becomes more than just the movie, right? It's the experience of watching on VHS, the slip art. Because let's be real for a second. This is how I feel. This is fucking awesome. Okay, seeing this on a shelf is fucking awesome. The whole aesthetic of a VHS tape is king to me. It is paramount. There's a certain feeling that will never go away when I pick up a VHS tape or see a VHS tape on a shelf. So anyway, I want to hear from you guys. All right. Are VHS tapes being rendered useless in 2025? Or is the rarity, the picture quality, all things considered, is this something that we need to start thinking about as a useless format to collect? Should we be just moving forward with Blu-ray and 4K and not paying the price for these things because it's getting crazy? So a lot of things to think about, and I want to hear your opinions in the chat. Sound off and let me know what you guys are thinking, okay? Again, I gave you my thoughts. Clearly, I don't think it's useless at all. But like I said, there was someone that I really respect in the community that came out over the past year and said, you'd be stupid to go out and collect VHS tapes. So I'm just very curious to hear everyone's thoughts. And sound off, guys. So appreciate you hanging out. Be sure to hit that like button, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.